Hello, all you hardcores. Welcome to part two. We are joined by Kent from Belfast, the Hardcores Hardcore. How are you doing, Kent? You all right, lad? We appear to have lost Kent. Earth calling Kent. Earth calling Kent. Come in, Kent. Turn your beacon on, Kent.
Got it turned on.
Go on, Kent, lad. No messing about from Kent tonight. Proper
Yeah,
hard.
I'm learning all this technology stuff. So I am. I'm a late. I'm not great with technology.
You don't say, Kent. You don't say. Hey, why are you good at, Kent?
Ah,
Besides running.
I like reading. I
Read.
like reading. Watching TV. I like watching TV. I'm not saying it's great. Just interest wise or what I'm good at. I just like being active. I just like being as active as possible. I'm pretty decent athlete, so I just like being as busy as active as possible.
Are you one of them blokes, Kent, that like runs everywhere? You know, if you go to the shop, you have to run to the shop. If you go to your grandma's, you have to run there and all that. You're always running about, Kent.
Always active, always been active my whole life. Always. I think if I take a couple of days off training, I just get withdrawal symptoms from training. My body just starts crashing and breaking down. So I just like
When you
being
were at
as
playground, Kent, were you always running about and that and very energetic and that and running fast?
yeah, yeah, always busy. Always busy. Always.
Were you always running down corridors and that, Kent?
Always messing about as well. Always messing about in school and always used to go on the big all the time in school. Used to go truant all the time in school. I hated it.
Yeah,
Absolutely hated school. Just hated being told what to do and conform. I just like doing my own thing.
yeah, yeah. Kent, what do you think is going to happen to Big Max out of a breadcrumb?
I think he needs to. I think it's as a young career coming from white collar. It's hard. It's going to be hard because you don't have that amateur background. You know that amateur pedigree
Yeah,
as you know as well as not even much as fighting, but in sparring. So I think he has to go around. He has to be sparring. Has to get lots of good sparring,
yeah.
kind of at his level, and then step that up and just take it from there and just try and climb up the ranks and try and beat guys. I think boxing. I think what makes boxing so unique is that you kind of have to fight guys at your level. I think that's a forgotten art of matchmaking. I think hype is. I think fighters are built more than hype and actually fighting at the level that they should be at. So I think Max should be just fighting at the level he's at and build experience, get plenty of good sparring, be in the gym all the time, training, and he could surprise an upset or beat somebody coming up. But as a professional boxer, you know, see all this thing. I hate this saying. Yeah, I'm going to get a good 6 week or 8 week camp. Well, you should be training anyway. You should be in the gym every day as a professional athlete. That's your job. Now, I suppose that boxers can't privy to that because a lot of the guys aren't on mega money. They haven't got a TV deal. They maybe don't have good sponsorship, so they need to have a job or two to balance that with boxing. But that doesn't mean you don't train. You just I'm gonna take this fight 2 months away and I'm only gonna train 6 weeks for it. I think you need to be training all the time. That's where you get consistency comes, you know, improvements come with consistency. And with consistency, you need to be doing it week in, week out. It's repetition. It's every day you're doing something. Whether you're in the gym, whether you're sparring, whether you're just improving your aerobic capacity, keeping your weight down, all them things are so important. You just don't do that a couple of times a year. You should be doing that every day as a professional athlete.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think's happened to Josh Warrington? Because 1 minute the unifying in Vegas for 3 million against Santa Cruz. Next, now all of a sudden he's vacating belts, getting knocked out, and blah de blah. And now all of a sudden they've got Begging Bowl out to fight Yazza Dickens for IBO. What's happened to Josh Warrington? He's like had a fall from grace, hasn't he?
His career, at one stage, I remember speaking to someone about Josh Warrington, and at one time he had a really good deal with Frank Warren with his tickets, and he got a percentage of the tickets that were sold. I think it was, I'm not sure what it was, but he made a lot of money off his ticket sale percentage. He sold a lot of tickets. He done really well. British, Commonwealth, European, English, done everything the traditional route. He won the world title against a faded Lee Selby. I don't think he would have beat Lee Selby 2 or 3 years before that, in a big stadium fight with Frank Warren and the Kaiser Chiefs and all that. Then all of a sudden, nothing really happened after that. Nothing, he had the Frampton win, which was a massive win for him. Now, at that stage, Card was basically at the end of his career, but it was still a massive, massive fight. It was a massive arena fight. But from that, he left Frank Warren after that, and he went chasing after the DAZN money. He went back to DAZN. He went back to Eddie Hearn. I think it was that stage where, when he was with Frank Warren, he should have stayed there, because Frank Warren had that crossover deal with Bob Arum. So it meant that their fighters could go back and forward. You see, everybody kind of scampered at that stage because the DAZN money was really, really high. And he run back the matchroom for the DAZN money, and nothing really happened after that. Nothing. His career has went down the tubes from that. You had that terrible loss to Lara, where he looked shell shocked. He looked like a shot fighter in that fight. I thought he looked bad against Kiko Martinez. I thought he should have been actually disqualified in that fight. Kiko Martinez actually broke his jaw in that fight. He's had his jaw broken twice in basically near enough back-to-back fights. The no contest against Lara was a disaster. His careers went nowhere. From he's went back to Matchroom, his career has went absolutely nowhere. And in that last fight, the Lopez loss, I thought he lost by easily 4 rounds in that fight. I thought he was comprehensively outboxed. There's no way back. And, when you're talking about, a big fight against Jazza Dickens, yeah, I like Jazza. He's a nice guy and all, but you look what Kid Galahad did to him in their fight. So that's hardly going to be a big fight coming back. Doesn't really have the interest with the two of them coming off really bad performances.
Who's to blame then, Ken? Is it the father?
I think everyone's to blame. I think
when you look at it, Ken, right? They fell out with Bricktop, and the slip sliding all the time between them both, aren't they?
See this out crap about, I'm going to get this fight coming up. I'm going to get this big fight, and I'm going to do this. See, unless that's been signed and that's been dotted and crossed and signed again, that's when a big fight's happening. I am sick to death of hearing fighters talking about. Now, he was talking about going over to Vegas during COVID for a big fight. That was never going to happen. Like against Kanzu, that was never going to happen. That was just Eddie Hearn talk, just keeping him at bay. Yeah. Why did he not? From the Kanzu talk during COVID, to believe that is really, really gullible. Then fighting, he was out a year. He was inactive for a year, over a year, then come back and get knocked out by Lara. So that for me is absolutely terrible. Why not even have that as a comeback fight then? Well, suppose that Jazza had that fight against Kid Galahad when he vacated the belt, because the purse bid was something like, it worked out, it was going to be, the purse bid was like $50,000. That was nothing money for a rematch against Galahad. I just think he's to blame, his dad's to blame, and the promoters to blame. I think if he should have stayed with Frank Warren, he would have been fighting in America on a top rank card, because that was the arrangement at that time with Frank and Top Rank.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that Lee Wood will ever fight Warrington?
I don't think it's got the legs. I don't think it's really got the legs on it, has it? You know what? Why would you? It's all going to depend on the rematch between Lara and Wood. It depends. If Lara beats Wood, there's no interest in that whatsoever. I suppose it would sell okay, but it's not going to generate the interest that two champions or two winning fighters would generate. I think it's kind of like a fight there on the back burner. It's like a plan B type thing, but that's going to be a year down the line, and a year down the line, especially with where Josh is coming from and where Lee Wood's coming from, it anything can happen in boxing.
Yeah. Do you think that Josh Warrington's finished?
I think as a champion, as that drawing champion, yes, I do. I think it's going to be hard for him. I think he's got that big football following, which is really, really good. But I don't think. I think those days are gone. So they are. I think the more you lose each time, you lose a certain amount of your fan base, and I'm not saying he doesn't have the fan base that he did, but it just doesn't generate that much interest. He's going to have to be the away fighter. So he is. He's going to have to really work at it and be the away fighter. And when you're getting really well paid as the home card fighter, to being the away fighter, there's a contrast there in purse, massive contrast.
Yeah, there is, mate, isn't there?
Massive.
But if Lee Wood can turn it around, he can be back in mix, can't he?
Yeah, well, listen, he's only had one loss, and that's the Lara fight. You know, look what Lara. I'm not saying Lara is an all-time GOAT or an all-time great.
I think Gavin McDonald beat Lee Wood.
Did he? I think he did. Yeah, it was for British.
British, didn't he? Yeah.
It was for British. So you look at his story. He's come back. He's lost domestically, and he won a world title. You know, it's amazing. It's an amazing comeback for him. He's done really well. He seems to be a really big ticket seller. I think Nottingham, I think they're looking for that fighter after Froch. I'm not comparing him with Froch, but I think when you have those big nights with Froch as a world champion to someone else from your town or city winning a world title, you're going to get good support. He has that support there. I think the Lara fight's going to be really, really hard. I think I think it was a brave move for them, you know, to take that fight. But it's going to be really, really tough. You know, you look at it, like he lost to Jazza Dickens, and he lost to Gavin McDonald. You know, he stopped against Gavin McDonald, and he lost in points to Jazza. And you know, from fighting Reese Mould a year later to beating Kanzu, then he had that massive fight against Michael Conlon, which was probably fight of the year, in my
Big
opinion.
Twinny Gav put him on moon.
What's that, Russell?
Big Twinny Gav put Lee Wood on moon.
Well, yeah, he stopped him like 6 rounds. You know, that just goes to show how far he's came from getting beat domestic and domestic fight to selling out an arena and now him. So he's done really, really well. He beat Joss Whale as well.
Yeah.
You know, domestically, he's had a lot of kind of takeover fights, building fights again. He's had a lot of, you know, he had that good win against David Oliver Joyce as well, the Irish fighter who had a big reputation over here. Then from Reese Mold, the fight in Kanzu, you know, that was the fight that Warrington was told or promised in Vegas, that beating him to that fantastic fight against Conlon, that loss against Lara. So I think that I think if Conlon beats Lopez for the IBF, I think that the money, the commercial sense would be a Lee Wood, Michael Conlon unification bout.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a massive fight. It sells itself after the first fight, so it does. The drama in that, and what an entertaining fight that would actually supersede a Joss Warrington fight. If you're as a boxing fan, I'd rather see that.
Yeah. Do you think Kid Gallagher can come again?
It depends. It really depends. I don't think he sells a ticket, so he's going to have to be the away fighter. I think it would actually suit him. I think it actually suits Kid Galahad to be the away fighter, but I don't know. I don't know what weight he's actually going to fight at the minute. You know, he's in between weights. I think he's just looking at an opportunity at any weight at all. I think when you don't sell tickets and you're not really yet commercially viable, you know, it's going to be really like he's lost to Maxi Hughes, he's lost TKO to Kiko Martinez, and he hasn't fought since the Maxi Hughes loss, which was last year. You know, he's going to have to go on the road as a B-side. That's the only way back for him.
He's going to have to be a road man, isn't he, Galahad, now?
Yeah, he's just going to have to go on the road. You know, he's going to have to go on.
Is he a road man killer, though?
Nah, definitely not. He was
road
definitely. Nah, he just has to get on the road and wait for an opportunity. Get a title shot somewhere as a B-side, as a name. And that's, for me, like, if he doesn't sell tickets, what promoter's going to actually invest in him again?
He doesn't do 10 tickets. Did you know that?
Well, he's not gonna get a ranking, or he's not gonna get investment from a promoter. If they did invest in him, it would be, you know, you're investing money in him to bring an opponent over, bring a belt over, get him a sanctioning with a sanctioning body, get him a ranking. You're going to have very, very little return on it. So I think,
as I said, skills to burn though, Kent, hasn't he?
He's surgeon, absolute surgeon. You look at that performance against Jazza Dickens, it was frightening. You look at his performance against Joss Warrington. You know, Joss Warrington dropped the belt rather than fight him. That says it all.
Yeah. Yeah, my own opinion is this, right? They've been with Warren, they've been with Earn, been with Warren, they've been with Earn, they've bounced about, haven't they? Right? Are you telling me that they're going to put up with that?
No chance.
Soon, what will happen is it'll be, we're with Mick Hennessy, we should have been with Mick from the beginning. That's what they'll be coming out with soon. Big fat Sean O'Hagan, 20 Park Driver Day. That's when he'll be coming out with next. Yeah, it'll be Mick will rebuilding Josh on Channel 5. Watch this space.
I think when you think about that, I think Mick doesn't even have a deal with Channel 5 now. I think it's Wasserman have got that deal. So I think Mick's got a deal with Boxer at Sky. A lot of Mick's fighters have been on the Sky platform from Boxer crossed over from Ben Shalom and Eddie Hearn. But I think even Josh is going to have to be the away fighter now. So he has to be, to get a world title fight or win a world title, he just has to take an opportunity as the away fighter and see what happens. Because he's been back and forward at the promoters. I think it was greed. From my opinion, it's greed when Frank Warren got him that stadium fight, got him the world title against Lee Selby, won that, and he left him maybe 2 fights later to chase the DAZN money. I think it's just greed has cost him. Yeah, of course. You know, if it wasn't for that DAZN money at the time that everyone was promised and everyone was getting, they wouldn't have left Frank Warren. Why would you leave Frank Warren after getting you a stadium fight against a world champion, delivering everything that for you that didn't happen at Sky, to go back to Sky? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a whodunit, Kent, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just greed. You know that Matchroom didn't get them. You know, he was British come-off, European champion. They couldn't secure him a world title. He left Emmons, went to Frank Warren. Frank Warren got him the opportunity. A fight or so later, he left Frank Warren to go back to Matchroom for his own money and gets knocked out by Lara. And the rest is history. It was just pure greed.
Yeah. It's not good, is it?
I think it's not that it's not good. It's not very smart. It's not great business sense. It's not great. That what they should have done there was they should have got him a couple of defenses in Leeds, built up that crowd, maybe got another stadium fight, another big arena fight. Don't forget, you know, he got him that win. You know, he got him that big fight against Carl Frampton at the time, who was really popular. It was the whole thing with Carr leaving McGuigan's. You know, Carr was building up. You know, he had that kind of deal with, you know, Carl had that deal with Top Rank, where they could cross over and fight in Top Rank show. He had that same opportunity and didn't take it. And that was a massive fight. It sold really well. It done well on pay-per-view. I think it was Manchester MEN. It sold so much. Yeah, it was Manchester MEN. And it sold out and it done well on pay-per-view. Then he goes and leaves him after that and goes back to DAZN and gets knocked out by Lara. It's terrible. Terrible business sense. Terrible management.
What do you see happening with Canelo next, Kent? Because he's got a mandatory, hasn't he?
The John Ryder fight, if anyone's going to tell you that this is going to be a good fight, they need their head looked at. I don't think John Ryder's got a chance against him. There's no way that a short, stocky fighter like John Ryder's going to give Canelo any problems whatsoever. I think anyone that says that, they're absolutely dreaming. I think it's a homecoming event as such for him. For Canelo, it's basically that Mexican market. It's basically a massive market that he's got. He's got that Hispanic market. It's huge in America. It would sell really well for that market. It's going to sell well on the gate. You know, why not bring Canelo back to Mexico when he's got that massive following? They'll probably use it to showcase some other Mexican talents from DAZN, because DAZN actually have a lot of Mexican boxers. They put a lot of Mexican shows on, so it'd be a way to build them up. But I see Canelo making easy work of John Ryder. I can't see him giving him any trouble whatsoever.
But what if John Ryder pulls it off?
Can't see it. You know, it's massive for John Ryder. You know, this is undisputed. He's IBF, WBA, WBC, and WBO, and you can't blame him for taking this fight because John Ryder's fought everyone. He's fought everyone domestically. He's had some good wins internationally. So fair play to him for taking that fight. You can't criticize a fighter for taking a big opportunity like that there.
Well, I hope John Ryder knocks him out. It might be worth a bet, that.
I think you could put better bets on than John Ryder knocking out Callano, Russell. Can't see it.
I know he's a bit special. He's only 32 as well, Canelo, isn't
he? Yeah, you look at I think I've rhymed off. I think it's around 20 champions he's beat. 20 champions. That's remarkable. Like you look at the resume he's got.
He's a special fighter, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and you look now, and I've always given him a lot of stick on here, and I've always criticized him, but he did a lot to go through when he failed that test. He did a lot to actually try and provide evidence. You know, he took a hair follicle test. He actually sourced the meat, and you could actually see that through his credit card that he actually was paying for that meat on his credit card at the time he was in camp. So it all correlated together. He'd done a lot. When you look at fighters with failed tests, like Conor Benn, you know, who didn't provide any evidence and screamed the house down, at least Callano actually went and provided the information that kind of help the authorities and find out what actually had happened with the failed test. But you look at the fighters he's fought, it's 20 world champions or more on his resume. It's remarkable. Remarkable.
Yeah, he's a top fighter, Kent, isn't it?
Where would you put him, you know, in super middleweight or middleweight? Do you think he would have beat the likes of James Toney?
He's beat him with 13 undefeated guys, mate, and beat 20 world champions.
It's incredible. It's a resume. You can't argue with that resume, Russell. So you can't.
No. Now, I want to ask you, Ken, who's your top 5 heavyweights since you were born, you know, in your era? You know, who you've seen on TV, the top 5 heavyweights?
This is great. A great question. I always have to say Lennox. I loved watching Lennox Lewis. Yeah, he was, for me, that was one of my goats growing up. He was just amazing. Watching Lennox growing up, watching his fights, I used to get really excited watching him. I thought he was amazing. My second is Holyfield.
The real
watching Holyfield. I remember watching all his trilogy bouts against Big Daddy Bo. They were incredible. And I remember him beating Mike Tyson. It was just, I actually got that pay-per-view. My mum and dad actually paid for that pay-per-view on Sky Sports, and I stayed up and watched it. Tyson Holyfield. It was remarkable performance. I loved how it was the blueprint to beat Tyson was box around him in circles and hold on to him and tie him up and frustrate him. And he just totally outboxed him. He outfought him. It was massive shock. So it's going to be Lennox Lewis, Evander Holyfield. My third favorite, this is going to shock people now. My third favorite was Corey Saunders.
Yeah.
Loved him, the sniper. He beat Vladimir. He knocked Vladimir into orbit. Absolutely. If anybody hasn't seen that fight, check out Corey Saunders against Vladimir Klitschko. Corey had like 5 weeks to train for it. He was actually retired at the time. And he took the fight and he smashed Vladimir to pieces. 2 pieces. That was a brilliant win. Absolutely remarkable, shocking boxing. I actually favoured Saunders in that fight because I followed his career quite a lot before that and kept in touch with Boxing News, and I knew the fighters off TV. Then I seen him fight quite a lot on those Cedric Kushner heavyweight cards that Eurosport used to show. So I knew how dangerous he was going in as a southpaw puncher. Fourth, always like Fatale. I remember the first time I seen Fatale was against Herbie Hyde, the WBO, and he smashed Herbie to pieces. I think Herbie couldn't wait to get out of that fight, to be honest with you. Then after that, you see him growing as a champion. He quit against Chris Bird, but in that fight, he tore his rotator cuff. Apparently, he couldn't even lift his arm up in that fight against Chris Bird. He lost his WBO title to him. Then it took him a while to get a bit of credibility back from that loss. Then he went on and had that amazing fight against Lennox Lewis. And at the time, it wasn't meant to happen because it was the way it worked out was Lennox Lewis was meant to fight Chris Bird, and Vitali was meant to fight Cedric Boswell, and Chris Bird had pulled out of the fight, and Lennox chose Vitali as the replacement fighter, and that was a great, basically retired Lennox. My fifth favorite is Frank Bruno as a heavyweight. Watching Frank Bruno, I remember watching him. You know what? I'm not gonna go Bruno. I'm not, because I'm just thinking back. I'm thinking out loud. I'm gonna go George Foreman. The comeback, George Foreman. Watching that comeback was remarkable. Watching him against Evander Holyfield. If anybody hasn't seen that fight, check out Holyfield against Foreman. That's one of the best fights I've ever seen. And then he knocked out Michael Moore to win the world title. That was just remarkable. Being the oldest man to win the heavyweight title was just absolutely remarkable. And as well, outside of that, I liked watching domestic heavyweights. I liked watching Scott Welsh. I liked him. I liked Henry Akamonde. I liked watching him. And I liked watching Frank Bruno. And Julius Francis, I liked him as well. And there was a couple of other heavyweights I liked watching. I always like domestic fighters. I like Mark Potter as well. I remember watching a couple of his fights. Danny Williams as well. Danny Williams knocking out Mike Tyson. And Danny Williams' performance against Fatale was really, really brave performance from Danny. So yeah, all those fighters I like watching back in the day.
Yeah, I only asked you for your five, Ken. I didn't ask you to recite the full of 2000.
You knew that was coming, Russell. You knew that was coming.
I did, Ken. You're a card, mate. I'm starting to think that you might have box rec wallpaper on wall now.
Oh, they were just fights I grew up watching. They were great, absolutely brilliant memories watching those fights.
I'll tell you what, Ken, I'm going to give you my top five in my lifetime. Ali, number one.
Yep.
They could all beat each other on day though. Larry Holmes number two. Vladimir number three. Beat 20 world champions Vladimir more than all these. Lennox number four. Riddick Bowe number five.
It's hard to argue with there. It's a great era. You know, you
all,
look at
all the famous.
All humble, great era, absolutely, and it goes
Riddick
back to
Bowe,
what.
Riddick
Yeah.
Bowe, 43-1, beat everybody he fought. So did Lennox. Vladimir had 20 world champions. Larry Holmes, he had a long range, didn't he? Ali rematched everybody except Trevor Berbick and Larry Holmes, didn't he?
Yeah, he was at the end.
Well, they brought him back, didn't they, for Holmes, didn't they?
Yeah, Yeah, that should never happen, to be honest with you.
But what a great fighter Ali were, though. Come on, Ken.
Yeah, listen, you look at error and error now. If you put your names together with mine and you compare them together, I think you have to have Ali as your number one. Can't
All day
can't
long, greatest heavyweight of all time.
Yeah, you can't argue with it. You know, everyone talks about Mike Tyson and how vicious he was and knocking people out and this and that. But for me, Ali's style beats Mike Tyson's style every day of the week. Technically, he
Mike
beats him
Tyson
every day of the
finished
week.
at 23, wasn't he? Let's have it right.
He was gone. Yeah, he was gone. I think you look at the longevity in Ali's career. You look at the fighters he fought on the way up. You look at the fighters he fought on the road. You look how he endeared himself. You look at him as a person. Compare that with Tyson. You have to. What he did for the sport. You know, pay-per-view boxing is there because of of Muhammad Ali. He created pay-per-view. He's the reason there is such a thing called pay-per-view, and that's why the heavyweight division, you know, they get such exorbitant purses compared to the other weight divisions. That's why Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
he's responsible for it. So, from my opinion, he's the greatest heavyweight of all time. You just need to look at his resume.
That's off Cut Julian, that question, actually. And he also asked me to ask you, who's the greatest fighters that you've seen in your lifetime from any weight division?
Yeah, that's a monster question. That's a show in itself. I just look. I remember watching Mike McCallum. For me, Mike McCallum's one of the best fighters I have ever seen. And I look back and I remember watching McCallum and James Toney, and I watched. They fought several times, if not three times. And you look at how good a prime James Toney was. Like a prime James Toney beats Eubank, Ben, all in the same night. Collins, all in the same night after each other. He was absolutely sublime. His hand speed, his shot selection, his defense, his accuracy with his shots. It was terrifying. For me, technically, I look at James Toney and I just see probably one of the most gifted fighters I have ever seen in my life. Ever. He's just remarkable as an athlete, as a boxer. Just amazing.
Well, I'm going to say Carl Froch, obviously, because I thought he was exciting. Arturo Gatti, that's 2. James Toney 3. Roy Jones 4. And Clinton Woods 5. Blood and guts. I like that sort of fighter.
My top 5. It's really hard. I'm gonna go with. Is it fighters that I like the most, or is it fighters that I thought were just technically on a different planet?
Well, the way you dribble on, Ken, let's go on to part 3 and do it, yeah? Because I've only got half a minute left on this. All right?
Okay.
On to part 3, lad.